Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Conquering the inner enemies. So we were discussing the nature of our personality and inner personality, the aspect of personality with which we are concerned. And we said there are three basic elements. One is the intellect, which was an imagery described in place of a charioteer, a driver. The second faculty is the mind, which is supposed to carry out the orders of the intellect, which it may or may not. That is compared to the reins in a chariot. And third are the horses, the sense organs, which are supposed to follow the command of the rein. So horses are supposed to follow the commands of the rein. The rein is supposed to follow the command of the driver of the charioteer. And the charioteer should have the right thinking, of course. The charioteer or intellect in our case is the thinking and deciding faculty. The mind is the emotional, impulsive and acting faculty. And sense organs are those through which the actions are carried out. Mind also requires the agency of eyes, ears, etc. to carry out, to get the information. Mind also requires the sense organs such as the speech, hands, legs to perform actions. We have twofold organs, organs of perception. We have 5 faculties of perception with which we perceive the 5-fold objects of the world: the sound, the touch, the form, the smell and the taste. We also have organs of action, the speech, hands, legs. It's the mind that directs these organs of perception, organs of action. That is how the interaction with the world takes place. It's called vyavahara, interacting with the world. So now we discuss in the earlier class how there is happiness within ourselves when there is harmony or alignment among these different faculties, the intellect, the mind and sense organs. This alignment, harmony, then our personality also is in harmony, it enjoys peace and happiness. In order to create that harmony, we should understand each faculty and the roles that they play in our life. So let us begin with the buddhi or intellect, which is described as in the place of the charioteer or the driver. In a chariot, the charioteer makes decisions every time there is a choice between the roads, like there is a intersection. Then the charioteer should decide whether to go straight, make a right turn, make a left turn. And the decision is made not on the basis of how the roads look. Sometimes the roads look very tempting. Very smooth and beautiful road with shaded trees, and so the mind may be attracted to take that road. There could be a road which is very rocky, rough, and therefore the mind may have a tendency to avoid that. So whether we should follow the fancies of the mind, which likes a given road or dislikes a road based on its appearance, not based on where the road leads to. And so, the mind may decide to take a road, whether it's pizza shop, where there are some video games and stuff like that. It's possible. Although that road may or may not be leading to a destination, it may be going in the opposite direction also. So when the Upanishad describes our life as a journey, it means that there is a destination also. That every human being is born with a notion of destination, that there is a destination of purpose in our life. This question is often asked, is there a purpose behind the human life? Sometimes there does not seem to be a purpose, but no, there is a purpose. In fact, nothing in the creation is without purpose. What is has a purpose to serve in the scheme of things. We may or may not know the purpose, therefore we may think that something is useless, like our appendix, which they think is useless, which may be, I don't know. We could not have been there had it not had a purpose. So it's a meaningful, purposeful creation, an intelligent, meaningful creation to achieve a certain purpose, and therefore our life must have a purpose. And when the Upanishad describes a life as a journey, the purpose must be there should be a destination. That means that the human life has a destination. The other forms of living beings have no destination. The animals, the birds, trees, plants have no destination other than just to live. Ahara, nidra, bhaya, maithunam cha. So eat when you're hungry, sleep when you are tired, protect yourself when you're in danger, and then propagate yourself. Maithunam, propagation of one species. These are all natural instincts, which is what all other creatures have, and that these instincts determine their life. And these instincts the human being also has, except that human being has a much greater purpose than simply eating, drinking and making merry, which is what many people think is the purpose of life. And the purpose is indicated by the fact that we have desires. Every desire has a reason to accomplish something. The desire usually is for something that I do not have, and therefore, by fulfilling desire, I want to acquire what I don't have. I want to experience what I don't have. Desire is for what is not there. So we have desires. This is an accepted fact that human being, our mind has desires. Meaning that there is something that we want. Every desire is a manifestation or expression of a want or a lack or a need. So the fact that we have desire shows that we have some need, we have some lack, we have some want. A desire is an expression not of fulfillment. When you are happy, generally there is no desire. Desire comes from dissatisfaction. When you are not satisfied with what is, with either yourself that you are or the situation which you are, when we are not contented with what is and there is a desire to create a situation where I can be contented. So the fact that we have desire shows that there is discontentment or dissatisfaction within ourselves. So this is what distinguishes a human being from other creatures. That human being suffers from a sense of dissatisfaction, self-dissatisfaction, self-discontentment, that I am not satisfied with what I am. And therefore I may not be satisfied with what is around me also, subsequently. So desire is the result of dissatisfaction or discontentment that I feel within myself. And the purpose is to gain satisfaction, contentment. The purpose of every desire is to become free from the sense of dissatisfaction or discontentment that I constantly feel within myself. So desire shows that there is need. And what is that need? To get contentment. If a desire is a result of discontentment, then what is accomplished by fulfilling desire is contentment. So human being is seeking contentment. You can call it happiness, call it satisfaction. With what? I am seeking satisfaction for what? I am dissatisfied with what? Looks like different people are dissatisfied with different things, and maybe there is nothing common among ourselves as far as the cause of dissatisfaction is concerned. One may have caused dissatisfaction because of lack of money, somebody else because of lack of food, somebody else because of different kinds of lack. But if we look into the real dissatisfaction that we have, we'll find that a human being is conscious about the dissatisfaction with his own self. I am not contented, I am not happy with my own self. It's not that other creatures are any better than me, but human being has self-consciousness. I am always conscious of myself and I find myself to be limited and therefore I am not satisfied with myself. So every desire is an expression of self-dissatisfaction, self-discontentment. Although it may look like I am not satisfied with the environment around me, it's too hot so I go and turn on the air conditioner. Looks like there is dissatisfaction with things around me, but if you look at within, then we find that even dissatisfaction with what is around also is a result of dissatisfaction with myself. Swamiji, it's hot. Where is the dissatisfaction with myself? I feel hot. And so I turn on the air conditioner. What's the big deal? Where is the dissatisfaction with yourself? You're hot, so why do you need to change that? You feel hot. So let it be. No, it cannot be, Swami. That means that you are not happy with a person or self that is hot. Then I feel cold and I go for a heater. So behind every activity and every purpose, behind every desire, ultimately we'll find that there is dissatisfaction, discontentment, or non-acceptance of myself. And therefore, we are seeking something as simple as seeking satisfaction of ourselves, contentment of ourselves, self-satisfaction, self-contentment. That is called happiness. I'm happy when I feel contented with myself, unhappy when I'm not contented with myself. So there is a purpose, and that self-contentment, unconditional self-contentment, is called moksha, which we discussed in the earlier class. So we are all born with a purpose in life. There is a destination. What's the destination? Moksha, or unconditional happiness, or unconditional freedom is the destination with which we are all born. We may not recognize it. We may not have actually judged it or discerned this need. But if you look at the need behind all the needs, this is what we'll find. Good, Swami. Unfortunately, God has created this life and the universe such that we have choices. It's a great gift. We have is a free will or faculty of choice, a great gift. But when we have freedom to choose, there is always a likelihood that we may make a wrong choice. Like walking on the trail also, you may make a wrong turn and you may get lost in the forest. And it may become evening and you may hear then the sound of some wild animals and things like that. All this can happen when you get lost, when you made a wrong choice. Meaning that making wrong choices have consequences in terms of creating unhappiness, sadness, fear. By the same token, making right choices also have consequences of creating happiness for us. Thus, we are born with this faculty of choice, and in the words of Pujya Swami, there is no choice in making a choice, meaning that we have to make choice in every situation. Without that we can't act. And so it is important that we should make right choice. And that is the job of intellect. The buddhi, intellect, the driver, should know what the destination is and what is the road leading to the destination. This is what a driver should know. Now with GPS, but the driver should know. Those is no GPS. So you are the GPS. Today also is no GPS where life is concerned. GPS is there for the road, but for life, Gita becomes a GPS. A Gita positioning system, not GPS. Somebody said Guru positioning system, another GPS. That we need. Now, Kathopanishad describes how two kinds of choices are constantly presented before us. This Bhagavan is not a simple entity. He is always smiling and benevolent, but then what he has created is not that simple. So every moment we can say that we come across choice between two alternatives, which Kathopanishad describes as Shreyas and Preyas. To put in simple words, Priyas is the choice of seeking immediate gratification, which in other words can be described as short-term gain, long-term pain, immediate gratification. Eat rasgulla or eat, the rasgulla is okay, but eat those, chili bhajiyas, etc. It's very tempting. Short-term gain, long-term pain. So this is how it is in our life. We go for short-term gain because there are temptations. I look at that, I see that bhajia and then my mouth is watering and I consume them without recognizing what the future consequences will be. So there is a tendency in us to go for immediate gratification. It's called prayas. Because we have these organs of perceptions, faculty of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. And there are corresponding sense objects also. And the relation that we have is one of attachment, that we have affinity or attachment or liking for seeking pleasure from these objects. Meaning that the objects always tempt us to go after them and enjoy them, which is immediate gratification, not recognizing what the consequences would be. So what's the problem, Swami? Why is there a consequence? Why can't you enjoy life? Why do the Vedantic teachers always talk about giving up desires and enjoy? What's wrong with enjoyment in life? Nothing wrong. As long as you are wise enough to choose that enjoyment which doesn't result into pain, that's all. So there is a kind of enjoyment or pleasure that results into pain. That is the short-term gain and the long-term pain. It is like when children were growing up, you see some friends smoking and it's very tempting. Because he brings out rings and shows. Actually, I don't think smoking is a pleasant experience. It must be that smoke, etc. In the beginning, it cannot be tempting. A pleasure. But then you want to do it. And then slowly you discover, I guess, some kind of a joy. And soon before you realize, you get addicted. Now, smoking is an obvious example. And we are not smoking, so we are not addicted. But then, this addiction relationship is everything. These days, of course, your social media, so we know what addiction is. Even if you are not smoking, we know what addiction is. Addiction is, it is not I who controls what I do, it is something else that controls what I do. And Kathopanishad says that we are all born, those days social media was not there, but even what is there is enough. We are born with a tendency of being addicted to the objects of the world, to sense objects. Paranchikhani vyatuna swayambhu. This is another thing Bhagavan has done. Bhagavan has created a natural attraction or temptation towards the things around us. So the eyes want to see beautiful forms and the palate wants to enjoy beautiful taste and so. These natural tendencies are given to us. Nothing wrong with that, as long as everything is done in proportion. But then temptation is such that we, more often than not, we lose sense of proportion and we become controlled by that. That's how addiction develops in life. In some form that we are all addicted. When you're hungry, if I'm given a chapati which is 3 days dry chapati, and the sabji also which is not properly cooked, I don't care for it, I don't like it. Meaning I want things to my taste and my choice. The purpose of eating food according to nature is to appease hunger. That's how All creatures other than human beings, they eat only to appease their hunger, but not human being. Human being also eats all right, but then he looks upon food as a source of pleasure. Thus the world is there, the various things are there for us to interact with and to learn, but our relationship is one of seeking gratification from them. So not only I have this mala, but I want to enjoy that the gratification. Not that you should not enjoy fragrance, not that we should not enjoy the world. I enjoy the world so long it is fine. If the world starts enjoying me, that is where the problem is. As long as I drink tea, so long it's okay. But soon before, and this happened to me, soon before I realized, I became addicted to tea. And how did I know I was addicted? When once the tea did not come at the right time, those days in the factories you had to go on Sundays for maintenance, shut down and stuff like that, and that time the tea club is not functioning. The so-called pune is not there, and so the tea did not come at the right time. At 9 o'clock. By 10 o'clock, I started getting headache. 10:30, there was nausea. 11 o'clock, I threw up. I didn't understand what was happening to me. When this happened a few times, I realized that I was addicted to tea. No, this is a problem. Taking tea is not a problem. Experiencing what is given around is not a problem. Being addicted, this is what happens to human beings because we do not observe boundaries. So, more often than not, our relationship with the objects around is one of addiction rather than simply experiencing them. This addiction then compels me to cross the boundaries, the sense of proportion, and the responsibility required in making choice, the responsibility is not there. So this is the first thing that we have to learn, that this is there in life, that there are temptations. There is nothing wrong in experiencing what is created in the universe. But experience them with temptation, with craving, then that experience will turn into an addiction. You see the difference? Very famous statement in Upanishad, Tena tyaktena bhunjithaha. We experience things with tyaga, renunciation of this tendency of addiction. Enjoy with freedom. So you enjoy them, as long as I drink tea, that is fine, but then a time comes when tea drinks me, meaning that tea demands. 9 o'clock, Swami, I'm called Swami, Swami means a master. But the tea then says 9 o'clock. And if I disrespect that, at 9:30 the headache starts. 10 o'clock the headache builds up. And that is how I become a slave of tea. Thus in leading life, we have to understand where the sense of proportion is. Shreyas, just enjoying tea is all right. When tea starts enjoying, then it's called prayas, meaning that then it is a short-term pleasure and short-term gain and long-term pain. In every situation, there is this choice of short-term gain and long-term pain, or short-term pain and long-term gain. But since we have a tendency to avoid pain, therefore more often than not, in avoiding pain, we invite long-term pain. This is interest of Shreyas and Prayas. Upanishad says that in every situation, these two options present themselves before me. One is called Shreyas, and is called Prayas. Shreyas, long-term gain but short-term pain. The long-term gain does not come without accepting short-term pain. If I always go for avoiding pain, then ultimately I invite long-term pain. And I know all that from my own experience anyway. So Shreyas and Preyas. So intellect must have this what called Viveka, the ability to discern what is Shreyas and Preyas. In every situation, these choices come before me. In every situation. And my temptations very often compel me to choose Preyas, which is short-term gain, without considering long-term pain, go for immediate gratification. So this is a choice that intellect is to make. This is a choosing the path. Like a fork, then we must choose one of the forks. And Shreyas and Preyas. These two things present themselves before us at every moment. And the wise person, a discerning person, chooses Shreyas, and that's how he helps himself and ultimately helps himself in gaining the goal of happiness, long-term happiness, lasting happiness. In choosing the short-term happiness, he ultimately loses the lasting happiness. In allowing the short-term pain, he chooses the long-term happiness. So Shreyas and Preyas, this is where the intellect has to be educated. But Swami, what are you talking? It's not clear to us, what is this? So let us go a step further. We said that moksha or the lasting happiness or unconditional happiness is the goal. Now next question, where is this moksha? Is it in the sky? Below the earth? In the heaven? In wealth? Name? Fame? Power? Where is this moksha? Where do you think moksha is? Where do you think that unconditional happiness is? Answer is, it is your own self. So this is basic viveka. What's the basic viveka or discernment in our life is that I am seeking this moksha or unconditional happiness and it is my own self. But Swamiji, if happiness is my nature, how come I don't always feel happy? If heat is the nature of fire, is it not that fire is always hot? Fire doesn't need to do anything to become hot. If moksha is my nature, I should feel free. I am not. So that is another thing Bhagavan has done. That even though that freedom is our nature, if we don't feel free about ourselves, that is called ignorance. There is something called ignorance in our life. So this is what we have to overcome in our life. Ignorance causes a false notion that what I am seeking is outside of myself. Therefore, the first step that the intellect to understand is what I am seeking is to be found from myself. That happiness and success is to be found from myself. I don't mean the wealth, etc. is myself. That's not so. But the happiness and success is to be found from myself. Vedanta says it is the accomplishment of what is already accomplished. Then so where is the choice? Choice is this, that then whatever I do is not for acquiring what I don't have. Whatever I do is for owning up what I have. There are two ways of doing things now. One is I perform an action to achieve what I don't have, or I perform an action to own up what I have. That's what Lord Krishna teaches in Karma Yoga, that perform the action not for acquiring what you don't have, perform action to own up what you are. So all this basic understanding intellect should have. That's the first education. That is what we get from listening to Vedanta. Then this instruction is passed on to the mind. That steering wheel. This steering wheel has its own mind here. So even though I turn the wheel right, the steering wheel decides to go left. Suppose. Similarly, even though intellect has the mind to do something, mind does not necessarily do it. How many times we have decided, Swami, I am not going to get angry. So this person comes to Swamiji and says, Swamiji, I have given up anger. Very good, congratulations. But I don't think you have given up anger. I have given up anger, Swamiji. I think you have not confronted a situation that will provoke you, that's all. If you are provoked, then anger will come. No, I have given up anger. I think that a provoking situation, Swami coolly would kept on telling him, a provoking situation, I am telling you, Swami, I have given up anger, It's waiting in there. And so this mind has a problem of various impulses within itself, which are the enemies. Vitara, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. Or last night we talked about in the Bhagavad Gita, Kamesha, Krodesha, this anger, greed, lust, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, these are recognized as these three impulses which if I become prey of, then I am controlled by them and then I am thrown off my path. So reason why the mind finds it difficult to do what the intellect tells, the talk is there but the walk is not there, because between talk and walk there are these fellows. Who are they? These impulses, called inner enemies, called Kama, Krodha, Lobha. So lust, anger, greed, jealousy, hatred, including self-hatred. These are the impulses, in fact, they govern the mind, and therefore, even if the mind knows what is right, it is not able to do because it is controlled by these impulses. So for the mind, the rein, to follow the instruction of the charioteer, the intellect, it is necessary that mind should be made free from these impulses. So this is something we have to constantly do. Because these impulses show up in all situations. Anger is waiting to express itself. The greed is waiting. The craving is waiting. And I should recognize now the Kama, the craving is arising in my mind. Krodha, anger is arising in my mind. Lobha, greed is arising in mind. So all these inner enemies can be classified into these three: Kama, Krodha, Lobha. Cravings, anger, greed. When the mind is controlled by these fellows, the intellect has no control of the mind. Intellect may be very wise, it may have a great talk, it may have right ideas, but then they do not become helpful to us because the mind is controlled not by the intellect, mind is controlled by these impulses. So Lord Krishna said the mind controlled by the impulses is your own enemy, and mind free from the impulses is your friend. So the first is to educate the intellect and the various realities of life and to understand what we are seeking and what's the way of seeking. Second is to make the mind free from the control of the impulses. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, they are the enemies. And then you can add jealousy and hatred and even self-rejection. So very often this is not recognized, that my rejecting myself also is an impulse or is also something that is hurting me. Anger hurts me, greed hurts me, craving hurts me, but this also hurts me. Therefore, recognizing this and constantly working with our mind, educating the mind and working and training the mind to do the right thing. So even when I know what is right, my anger might compel me to do things differently. The greed may compel me to do different, because the greed makes me a dishonest person. When filing the income tax, return, some fudging takes place. I'm sure you are not doing what generally people do. That's why we have this so-called CPAs, the Certified Public Accountants, or whatever else they call in Canada, whose job is to do the tax planning, means tax cheating, that's, I think. How to find the loopholes. And why are we so reluctant in giving, I don't know why. Tax maybe something 35%, suppose 35%, 65% you have. No, on 35% I will work hard to make it 33%, 31%, 30%. Why? That is called greed. That even though I have, I want more. So greed has two dimensions. One is, I want more than what I have. Secondly, I cannot part with what I have. So even if I see somebody needy, my mind, in India when you are riding a car, and a car comes at an intersection, and then some fellows, some urchins appear from nowhere, and they knock on your window and tuk tuk tuk, and they make all kind of appearances and create pity in you, and then it takes 135 seconds, for the light to turn, so they have enough time to work on you and arouse your sympathy. And then you pull out your wallet, okay. Mind says, give him 10 rupees. You pull out the wallet, then mind says, no, give him 5 rupees. Open the wallet, mind says, no, give him 1 rupee. Take out 50 paisa. You actually give him 25 paisa. The greed prevents me with parting with what I have, even to those who are needy. I cannot part with money. I'm not satisfied with what I have, I want more and more. And we all know, Swami, now we are moving to a bigger house. From 2 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms, and then after 5 years, yet bigger house. Bigger cars, bigger things. Nothing wrong in that. What I'm saying is that that's how the mind is. Not satisfied with what it has, it's like pouring butter into the fire. How fire becomes more demanding, so this greed becomes more and more demanding. But recognize this tendency. Anger. Anger is a result of my intolerance. I just cannot tolerate things. I cannot tolerate anything that is not in keeping with my requirement or my expectation. I want the whole universe to function according to my expectation, and when it does not, I cannot tolerate. That's what makes me angry. I want you to sit in a certain way, talk in a certain way, dress in a certain way, cook in a certain way. I have demands from everybody around me. I may not say them, may not express them, but there are expectations. That in every relationship there are expectations. Where I expect others to conduct themselves in a certain manner, to make me happy. So my basic need to be happy is what I want to fulfill through you, that I want you to make me happy. I cannot make myself happy, so I want you to, by conducting yourself in a certain way, by doing certain things, or not doing, I have prescription for you. Thus, in every relationship there are expectations and demands. When do I get angry? When my demand is not fulfilled. When my expectation is not fulfilled. That is when I get angry. So behind anger there is always a demand of how you should be. And when you fail to fulfill my demand, I get angry at you. Kamesha, Krodesha. Lord Krishna says that what is demand now, when frustrated, that demand turns into anger. So then how do we become free from anger? What do you think we should do to become free from anger? What should we do?
Don't go any demand. Don't expect anything.
Give up demands. You have expectations. How do we do that? You know what an expectation means? Expectation means that I do not accept you as you are, I accept you as I want you to be. That's what expectation means, meaning that we are not accepting people as they are, we want them to tailor make, according to our requirement. Why is it so? Because I am not happy with myself. So I want you to make me happy. And if you do a given thing, then I am happy. If you don't do, I am not happy. This kind of expectation is built into every relationship. So our expectations, our demands, they are the cause of anger. Kamesha, Krodesha, Lord Krishna, what is kama, what is demand, what is expectation, turns into anger when it is frustrated, not fulfilled. So how do we give expectation? Expectations cause anger. How do we give them up? How do we give up expectation and demand from the world around me? I want even these traffic lights also to conduct themselves in my, that it should turn green when I reach there. And they should learn how to coordinate this traffic light so that I don't encounter any red light, so I can reach my destination quickly. These fellows are not properly programming this. So how the weather should be, how the traffic light should be, how the traffic should be, how the road should be, how other people should conduct themselves, here is much more organized and systematic. You come to Ahmedabad, then you will know what expectation is. Where scooter can from this way and rickshaw from some other way, and then that's how the world is. Here the traffic is systematic, but the world is not. People are not systematic like that. People don't conduct themselves as according to rules. And then more often than not, my expectations are not fulfilled, and I get upset. So, what do we do so that we don't get upset? Simple, Swami, give up expectation. What is the cause of expectation? Not accepting you as you are. So, how do I give expectation? By accepting you as you are. Very simple, is it not so? Accepting you, not only accepting you, respecting you. Even more than that, loving you as you are. That's the best thing. Acceptance means I am obliging to some extent. I accept you. Better than that, I respect you. Better than that, I love you. So this is the direction which we have to grow, understand? Then only anger. There is no anger when there is love. In love, everything is fine. My child I love, it doesn't matter what the child does. The person whom I love, generally we are very tolerant, we are very accepting. When you love the Swami, it doesn't matter what he does. Or you love any person, it doesn't matter what they do. You may not tolerate that with some other person. This is okay here. Meaning that in order to become free from anger, we begin by trying to give up expectation, by accepting people as they are, because people are our main problem. We don't get angry at tables and chairs usually. Our problems are only with human beings. And that too, those who are related to us. We are not concerned about these people in the street. People who make me most unhappy are the people who are related to me. Isn't it funny? And more closely a person related, more likely he is to make me unhappy. Because I have more expectation from people who are closely related to me, and they are more likely that they may not fulfill my expectation. Very amazing thing. Those who hurt me, those who are close to me are more likely to hurt me. Because I have more expectations from them. Hey, you are my son, you should know. You should know. So, it is important to accept and respect the world and life as it is. In words of Swami, give them the freedom to be what they are. Not easy, but this is the way to learn to develop harmony with others. Give the people the freedom to be what they are. Our Swami would say that in India, sometimes in the street corner in the evening, you have a madman standing there with his wealth of all the rags that he has collected for the whole day in a sack. He's standing there with his wealth. Who? A mad person. And then you are passing by, hey, you boy, all kinds of things he tells me. I know that he's mad. Do you react? Hopefully you don't. So what do you expect from a madman? Is it not so? When a street dog barks at me, do I get mad? No. What do you expect from a dog? So we know what is meant by acceptance. We know that a dog would bark, a madman would talk like that, this would talk. So a mosquito, what do you expect from a mosquito? It will bite. What do you expect from sun? It will make you hot. It will give you headaches. But you don't get angry at sun, or you should not be. You may not be comfortable. Don't get angry at sun. Don't get angry at weather. Be uncomfortable, but not angry, understand? We accept that this is what it is. But my spouse, that's a different matter. My child, different matter. My friend, different matter. A madman can get away saying anything to me, but my friend cannot say 1/10 of that because I get angry. So, the way to slowly deal with anger, to recognize what sort of demands and expectations we are entertaining and work with them. With every person, with every case, what expectations I have and how to learn to accept them, respect them, and ultimately develop love for them. That's the way to get over anger. Meaning, an important call of making myself miserable, because every time I get angry, later on I feel sad. Anger creates sadness in me. And greed, of course, as you said, appreciate what is given by Ishvara. Recognize that there are many who are much more needy than we are, etc. And that is how we can become generous. Kama, Krodha. So this is how the mind has these impulses. Intellect is thinking faculty, and right thinking is what we have to do with reference to intellect. For that we can seek the help of scriptures and teachers to understand what is right thinking. The mind is a faculty which has all these impulses in that. And when the mind is controlled by impulse, it doesn't obey the intellect. So make the mind free from the impulses. Then mind is available to do what is right. So first understanding what is right, and the mind being available to do what is right. And third is the horses. In fact, so many impulses are built into our sense organs also. Sometimes when something comes, some food item comes, without thinking, it just goes into my mouth. In the sense organs also, this kind of urges are built in. We recognize them, and we have to make sure that the organ of speech speaks what I want to speak. Hands do what I want them to do. Legs do what I want them to do. Eyes do what I want them to do. Thus being alert about organs of perception, organs of action, and make them do what I want them to do. Buddhi, the intellect, the charioteer, the reins, the mind, horses, the sense organs. So we have to work with each of these faculties and make them free from those factors which make them behave wrongly. By God's grace, we are all good people. We are all kind people. We are all loving people. Meaning that anger is not our nature. Although we say he's an angry man or angry person, but anger is not anybody's nature. Greed is not anybody's nature. and craving is not our nature. By nature, we are good, kind, loving people. But because of ignorance, because of wrong thinking, because of wrong behavior, it has become like this. And therefore, we have to turn around and transform our intellect, our mind, our sense organs, our whole personality, to bring about that harmony. Then the chariot runs beautifully. Vijnana sarthiyastu manah pragarvanaraha sodvarah paramapnoti tad vishnoh paramam padam, says Upanishad, that thus when the intellect and the mind, sense organ, the whole personality is thus in harmony, that chariot leads you to a destination which is moksha or unconditional freedom. It's not destination something other than myself. My own self is a destination. And understand that the reward is immediate. And even when we make our mind free from just one impulse of anger, some acceptance I show, some respect I show, some kindness I show, the reward is immediate. The mind immediately feels happy or gratified. So this is how we conquer the inner enemies. By number one, first right understanding and intellect. Number two, making the mind free from impulses. Number three, making sense organs from their habits. We become a integrated person. A person enjoying inner harmony, inner happiness, inner satisfaction, which leads us to the lasting satisfaction. So that is the reward. It's not that the satisfaction will come someday, it comes at every step. It's the reward of conquering these inner enemies. So with this, I will conclude this talk, and we will spend some time in answering questions. There are only 2 questions before me, but if there are more, let us know. There are these index cards on which you can write your questions.